Well, hello, this is Shiva. I decided to work a little bit more on my Fun Table 4, which has turned out to be not very fun. But I'm going to try and be a little bit more positive. This is really to show off the changes that have been made to the game. As you can see, the first thing you can see is I got another table called Wide 1. This was sort of an experiment when I just literally just loaded my Fun Table 4 and did a save as, and the thumbnail immediately appeared. Yet I still don't have the thumbnail for the table I'm actually working on. I have a feeling that it's a copy of one of the games that's already existing here, and I've noticed that it happened before when I tried to do that, yet making a copy of a copy seems to work. Okay, that's a weird one. That's, of all of the bugs, that's kind of a weird one. But in the meanwhile, let's put her in and hit thing. I believe I have this in memory. All I have to do is, there you go, the table as is loaded and as it looks now, and yeah, there's quite a few changes going on here, isn't there? So why don't I just detail all of the changes. This is sort of an update to the stream I did today. It's my first attempt at ever doing any kind of a live streaming. The sound quality is a little bit dubious because of all of the noise that was around and everything else. But it did detail a lot of the changes. I've made a few more. Developers, if you are watching this, I would actually advise that you watch that stream because I detail some very interesting things about the physics. And also I sort of come across the reason why I'm having what I commonly refer to, or jokingly refer to, as the epileptic flipper, which is actually not very funny. And I spent about 15 minutes in that video trying to make adjustments and showing what all of the adjustments are on with the flipper and the effects that it has. As you can see, the maximum power, this guy's only is at 95. Why is that at 95? Oh, that's because it does suffer a little bit, so I juiced it up compared to this one, so that they actually sort of shoot at the same speed. Yeah. And this one here, this is the one that was really bad. I spent about 15 minutes just playing with the flipper maximum angle and the flipper rest angle to try and get that stutter off. I believe when I loaded this in that it seems to be pretty good, that everything plays reasonably well, and the flippers look to be the same strength now. This guy still suffers a little bit from the stutter, but I would suggest to the developers that they watch that. And I also discussed the physics of a couple of other things, most importantly the bumpers. So that's something that you should have take some time and watch it. Okay, so we've started off with some big changes, and the first change on the left side here, I was kind of wondering what I was going to do with the auto plunger, or actually I forgot what do you call that here? Yeah, the automatic kicker. I couldn't really figure out what to do with it, and then I suddenly realized when I made some other changes that I maybe had the room to sneak it in. If you will notice here, and hopefully this is the last time I get to mention a bug this entire video, but every time I talk about stuff I keep remembering about bugs. And this, I almost lost this table this afternoon because of the apron. This guy here. What happens is I selected the object, and the object moved, and it moved into the apron, and I was very, very fortunate that I could with the angle get it out of there. If that object is in the apron and it interferes has anything to do with the drain or the plunger kicker or whatever system that you've got in there, and you can't move that object out of there, then you have to basically scrap your entire table and start over from scratch, because you cannot select anything underneath here. You cannot move the apron. You cannot change the apron, and God's sakes, I really want this apron changed. So I almost lost the ball. And then on top of that, some of my games, I was only getting 3 balls. Sometimes the ball wouldn't even kick out and it would just not play and stuff. And I realized that the reason for that is this guy right here. Why is this even part of the model? But as you can see, it goes all the way down. But if you shrink this, this actually goes down a little bit, and this interferes with the ball. This is about as small of a space from here to here that I could possibly make it without it interfering with the ball. I might have a little bit more leeway, but as you can see, that's about as much. So what I did with the auto plunger is I sort of just merged it with the wall a little bit. It doesn't look great, but this would be covered up with a plastic anyway, so it's not a big deal. So what does this do? Well, instead of it kicking out on the other side, it does the same here. So I set up a little trigger. There's my ball spawner right there. I set up a little trigger, and it was the one that was already used in the game, and it just lights the light. It turns on the auto kicker. The auto kicker will fire the ball into this target, and then just go back down to the plunger. And there's also some nice rules that you can do with that. You can tie it into a set of a bank set of targets and stuff, and maybe you can have multiple lights, so every time you make the targets, each one of these lights lights up, and you can get a whole bunch of points and stuff like that. It's a kind of a fun shot. I did some modifications to this design for this example. We'll be showing it very shortly. There's a little wire rail here so that the ball doesn't get bumped out by the bumper. So anyway, but that's just one of that's the change on that side. I completely redid this side. I was a little unhappy with how the ball was actually bouncing around in here, so it's a lot more livelier now, and everything along here is now fixed. It's nice and smooth, and now we go to the other side, and there are a couple of really significant changes. And there you go. And of course, the first thing you see, I removed the second flipper that was over here. It really wasn't necessary to even have it. It wasn't really shooting anything of any importance or anything that I couldn't get with the other 3 flippers. So I made the executive decision to get rid of it, and try to make the entire left side a lot more interesting. And as you can tell, it's definitely gotten to that. I've got a beautiful little curved lane here now. I've got the gate. This looks a lot better. The slingshot is no longer so massive. I ended up pretty much changing the entire section all the way around here, just so that this section will work a little bit better. Plays wonderful. It's just a great visual experience for the player, because it's not as boring. And I even managed to save the little target, though I'm still working on that one right now. Anyway, as you can tell, you can now shoot the ball also all the way up now from the bottom flipper. You couldn't really do it before. The angles were wrong. So I decided to make a big change. I pretty much redid all of this and all of this, and I even got the little wire, the little metal strip here to work. Oh, I'm very proud. Look at that. Look at how nice that curve is. Took me 15 minutes, but it's still a very nice curve. But anyway, the shot is just beautiful to watch. It goes all the way up here. It rides along so smoothly, and the kicker will kick the ball out, and then of course it will play with the bumpers. That would be the other portion of the stream. Oh, actually no, I got so fed up with a couple of things I saw, I stopped the stream. But the bumpers definitely need a little bit of work. If I remember, I will talk about that after this. As to this, well, here's the other big change. There's now only 3 lanes instead of 4. If you remember, when I was saying was that the plunger shot, it would come here and it would just sort of go like that. And that was because of the angle that's here, partially my fault. And so I decided to make a huge change for the sake of the playability of the table. So the plunger shot now works a lot better, and I had room to add a few extra pegs and posts there, so there's a lot more bounce going on in there. Before it was just kind of a dead shot. It would just hit something, then it just go straight down. Now we've got a lot more bounce and everything else. Really improves the table at the top. And the bumpers here, I've also made some changes. Again, it was purely based on play and on the physics, what I was seeing, what the physics were doing. Beyond that, that's pretty much it. As you can tell, I've done minor stuff. This entire area was in fact completely reshaped. The idea was to have a really nice smooth shot, and it is. The problem is that this flipper is shooting sometimes at hyper speeds, while at other times it's only at half speed. I think it's an effect of that shaky flipper thing. And I'm still playing with it to try and get it to at least look a little bit better. It really shakes pretty badly at the moment. But I can actually make it worse. In the stream, I got it really, really looking bad. Just changing some of the settings and just showing people what it was actually doing. Now it's not so bad. I've also had to really boost up the shot strength on this one. This one was, I've got this set at 7 now, but other ones are weaker. This one's at 5.5. This one really does kind of suffer. I actually think, I think what I'll do is I'll just knock that down to 90. And this one I'm still working on right now, but it sometimes really is a weak shot. These do suffer a little bit. It seems to be just the right flipper. If that helps the developer, maybe there's a flag in there somewhere that's turned on that shouldn't be. Maybe that's what's causing it. Or there's a bit of math, like an extra decibel point or something like that. Who knows? But that's something for the developer to look at. I'm pretty sure it's just a very simple code thing. And it's one of those things that you'll slap the side of your head and go, oh, how could I have missed that? Yeah, it's probably one of those. So anyway, that's what the change of the game is. Let's take the let's show you some of the way things look here. Let's put that there. Let's press Control S because I keep forgetting to do that. I'm gonna put a big massive sticky note on my monitor that says press Control S every time, Paul. And let's move over to here. Oh, I should mention that the WASD keys sometimes are reversed. So when you press the W key, it actually, instead of going north like it should to the top, sometimes it goes south. And same with the A and D, the sort of opposite. It always happens when I load the program in. After a couple of times, then it sort of fixes itself. But you know, it's just a problem there. Anyway, let's just start the game. Come on. Up, there we go. I don't know how loud it is because I'm using the sounds that came with Paratrooper, and the sounds themselves are actually quite loud. So I usually balance my recordings based on my sounds, but the sounds that the devs use are a lot louder than mine. So anyway, let's just hit the B key and let's see that curve. Look at how nice and smooth that is, isn't it? That's just pretty nice. Take a look by the gate, and if you notice, I've got it so that the board doesn't even, when it goes for the gate, doesn't even jump down. There are, I've been a little negative today on some of the physics with this, but there were other physics here which are just absolutely terrific. Future Pinball could never do that in its lifetime. In 15 years, it still screws up shots like that. That is really, really good. Okay, next one. I'm going to detail, I think I'll detail that the thing that I noticed when I was checking with the physics with the bumper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the board there. I think that's where it's around about that area that I kept doing that. Okay, Control S. Let's have a look at this. Let's start a game. I think I'll just come out a little bit here so we can see the behavior of the ball. Press B. Oh, this is actually doing properly by the looks of it. It may or may not. Oh, whoa! Hey, it triggered that. How nice is that? Oh, okay. What I was getting on with this is, oh dear, it's very, very similar to what it was before. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah. Let's do that again. I know it's a lot longer this time, but before it would hit the bumpers a couple of times and then it would always go hit the slingshot and then promptly drain. In fact, I was able to do the exact same thing 10 times in a row. And where it's really boiled down to is with the bumpers themselves, the physics. There appears to be no randomizing function with them, and you know, when the ring comes down, it sort of squeezes the ball out, so the ball comes out slightly different angles. And also as well, the solenoids too as well, they're not a consistent speed. Sometimes there's a small variation in the power, and that's what makes the balls come out randomly with the bumpers, and it appears to not be in with the bumper physics. In other words, you can set this so that it will be the same exact shot. It will hit here, hit here, hit here, drain. Then the next time, hit here, hit here, hit here, drain. And you can do it like as many times in a row as you want. Sort of like watching the video and then looping it 9 more times. That's pretty much what the bumpers are doing. So you got to be very, very careful. So if you're doing a game, always check your stuff. Right? Now with this, again, the speeds will be a little bit differently. I'm not too sure. Now, let's not even bother with that. I also checked this lane here too as well. I checked the kickers. I checked this area where the ball was spawning just to look for possible drain shots and problems with the play. That's how I caught the bumpers. But let's show off this one more time. End this on a reasonable note, and I will talk a little bit about the physics after this. Control S, start a game. I almost forgot to save the damn game again. And as you can see, we're going to spawn a ball here. I thought this would be a kind of a little cool thing. I'm going to probably change the design on that because I noticed that problem cropped up again with the plunger when I was trying to make the first video. I ended up deleting it because I didn't want to keep showing bugs. So far I've been pretty good with that, haven't I? So far you haven't seen a single bug in here so far. Anyway, let's hit B. Oh, see, it's not quite doing it. Yeah. It's because of the plunger wall. So I'm going to have to move the plunger over just a little bit. That should hopefully do it now. Sorry about that. It was working. It did work actually when we saw it in the when I was testing the bumpers and everything. So obviously it's a little shaky. And again, there's not really much I can do about it because it's the plunger wall that's causing the problem. It has to be that high no matter what. And yeah, that's still not great. If you notice, I have the plunger set very, very low. So why don't I show what happens when I put it on normal speed? It might not do it now, of course. but we'll see. Let's put this back up to 1. And see if it does what it was doing before. It wasn't doing it my previous save. It's now decided to start doing it. There seems to be some sort of weird thing with this program where it doesn't seem to keep the same settings. Sometimes it just seems to, it plays fine, and then you exit out and you have dinner, you come back and the game plays like shit. So, I mean, well, it's not too bad. But you see, it's just jumping all the way up. I've never seen a button target, a stand-up target, do that. In real-life arcade, it shouldn't be doing that in a computer simulation too as well. And it's actually quite bad. If you see, as I'll show you this, I'll go back to edit mode. If you have my left flipper too powerful, what it does is it hits this little target, and then the ball goes flying all the way up like that. And again, that's stuff that really shouldn't be happening. I think, from my point of view, looking at it, the first thing I thought about was, oh, the ball is really floating off the table. It just doesn't seem to have enough rate. It's almost as if it's got an inner core made of helium. And yeah, it's constantly flying all over the place. That's the reason why you see I've got plastics now or cheap things just to prevent the ball from constantly flying over. And it was over here. It's constantly flying over where there's right plastics. That's the reason why I tried to stop it with that. But occasionally it will hit this and just go flying over here. And as I said before, I don't have my flipper very powerful, so it shouldn't, again, I think there's something that needs to be looked at in the code for that. In the live stream, I suggested making the physics available to be changed in some sort of a configuration file. In FP, we used to have an XML file that listed all of the physics, and we've been very happy changing them for the last 5-6 years to try and get the physics better in future pinball. The VP guys, it's now built into the visual pinball editor, all of the physics. But for PinBuilder, yeah, I would say that would be a great idea, because it would certainly take a lot of workload off of the developers, because when you change one piece of physics, you generally end up having to change a lot more physics for other objects because of the way the ball reacts. So change one thing, you end up having to change another 6 or 7 settings sometimes. So there are people like I've been doing it for years. I know there are a lot of people that have also been doing it for years. We've got loads and loads and loads of experience when it comes to trying to get physics to work with a pinball editor. Certainly, we've probably been I think the devs have maybe 5% of the time when it comes to the physics that say I would have. As I said, I've been doing it for 5 years, so maybe this is a great way for the developers. Let the community and the people who have the knowledge and experience with stuff like that, let us have a crack at it. Future Pinball was just god-awful when it came out. It was god-awful until we figured out a way to be able to adjust the physics. And it does take a long time to do. Future Pinball is no longer the joke that it used to be when it came to the physics. So yeah, this is something I think developers should strongly consider. Average people probably wouldn't care about that. The only thing they would care about is if people with knowledge make their games better, play better. But there are some of us that do like to mess around with crap like that. So there's a pretty good suggestion there, I think, for the developers to consider. Sure, save a lot of time on their workload too as well, because physics can be a real time consuming type of thing where you're just staring and trying to change numbers and seeing what happens and everything else. So yeah, that will free up a whole bunch of time for them, I think, too, in the long run. And on top of it, well, you'll make PinBuilder play a lot better. All right, so there you go. Other than that, I really don't see too much else to talk about. Everything is flowing reasonably okay. I'm still eyeing those center targets. I kind of think maybe something else could be put there. At the moment, I haven't been able to come up with a decent idea. If anybody in the comments has an idea, just write them down. You know, we can't do too many things because there are some things that you would kind of need to be able to be put in PinBuilder. Certain games like Embryon, for example. I know Space Invaders just had a very simple horseshoe. That's probably pretty easy to do, but I just don't think that it's actually going to look very good. This was about the best that I could come up with. And but you know, maybe I'll come up with something very, very interesting. Other than that, that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this. I try not to complain too much about certain things. I didn't mention the one thing that I said I was going to mention every time. We all know what it is. So I guess I guess I just mentioned it, so therefore, you know, I kept my record intact. But other than that, okay, what's going on there? Oh, my cursor was off screen. Oh, and the amazing thing is my cabinet mode has stayed on. I was also getting a little frustrated with this stream because the cabinet mode kept resetting back to standard. But it's actually been stable today, so that's really, really nice. Yeah, that's about it. In the meanwhile, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will probably get back to 8-ball real soon. I figured that if I was going to do 8-ball, I needed a better understanding of certain things that are happening within PinBuilder, especially the physics, as I said before. I'm beginning to understand where the really strong points to this game are in terms of the physics, and also where the weak things are, so you know, you can sort of design your way around it. But yeah, I'll be starting with the 8-ball, back up with the 8-ball very soon. This is 8-ball is generally mostly coding now, or going into the logic mode. This one I haven't even done anything. These are just the dev stuff that came with Paratrooper. Arrow works, sort of. This could be a pretty complicated game with the controllers. So I may decide to. Oh, great! There's one underneath there. Can I get him? No, I cannot. I'm going to have to move him out, grab that little controller, and put him in the middle where he belongs. Okay, but other than that, that's it. I hope you've had a great day. It's been very hot. I am looking forward to stopping the recording so I can turn my fans back on. But in the meanwhile, I hope you've had a great day, and happy pinball.